Guys, everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So it is now a few days after the grand final, and you know I am getting there. Such just a heavy loss by my Swannies, and oh, that over there. Yeah, I just wanted to put that there to make myself feel better. Nah, but in all honesty, fellas, well done the Cats. They were terrific in the grand final. A huge 81-point win and a great way for them to cap off an amazing 2022 AFL season. And now we're heading into the off-season, end of the season. In today's video, I'm going to be reacting to my 2022 AFL season predictions at the start of the year. So I'll be reacting to my ladder predictions, who I think won the Brownlow medal, who I think won the premiership, the Rising Star, Coleman medal, all that stuff. Now with the ladder predictions, I know a lot of other people do these. They have a sort of like a point system where the lower the score, the better. So simply how it works, it's quite straightforward. Let's say I tipped North Melbourne at 15th. They finished 18th. It would be a 3-point difference. Lower the score, the better. Simple as that. So without further ado, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're going to enjoy today's video. And let's get into the reaction. Right, everyone, let's get into it. So, season predictions back in March. Got the headphones on. Used to wear these when I used to do the live watch-ons last year. They're bloody nice HyperXs. Anyway, let's get into this. Wooden Spoons, I know who this is.
And we start off at 18th with Hawthorn.
There we go, Hawthorn.
Will be the Wooden Spooners.
Yeah, I mean, Hawthorn kicking off at 18th. Look, simply, I just felt that first year coach of Sam Mitchell, young list they do have. I'm pretty sure in round one, they did have the youngest list they've ever fielded in quite a long time, or I'm pretty sure out of any club in like 15 years or something like that, since 2005. So just heading into, I knew they'd be a young side. The preseason was very ordinary as well. But hey, how about the year they had? They ended up finishing 13th, so it's a 5-point difference to kick it off. Not the greatest. But yeah, I don't really want to go for North Melbourne. I wanted to be you know, a bit unorthodox with my predictions, but yeah, they had a terrific year. I feel like if you're a Hawks fan, you should be pretty proud of the season you've had. Major scalps in the first half of the year, started strong in finals contention. I mean, knocking off Port away, the Cutters, coming close to a lot of opponents, but yeah, as expected, the heavy defeats did come. But, you know, they've invested really well in the draft. They will again this year, you'd think. Possibly picking up 𝐼𝐻𝐿 𝐿𝐴𝐸 coming in. You know, Josh Ward and Connor McDonald really good, and Dylan Moore as well. He's still very young. I think they're building nice, the Hawks, and yeah, I tipped them for 18th, and they finished 13th.
At 17th, I've gone for Adelaide, a team that I did have as a Wooden Spoons in my early...
Yeah, right, so I've gone Adelaide at 17th, and they ended up finishing, well, 14th. Another team out of the bottom four, so two have already got wrong there. 3-point difference, that is. You know, I think the Crows still, in my opinion, have probably not the greatest out of, comparing to other clubs, the greatest list out of the comp. But this year, I think they really exceeded expectations, sort of. I feel like they really wanted to get out of the bottom four, and that's what they achieved. And my gut feeling at the start of the year was I just don't feel like they'll have that enough talent to pick up those wins, but they did pick up a few really nice upsets throughout the season. A few of the young players were really good, you know, Paddy Parnell and Salego, a really huge revelation. Rochelle was really good in the first few games. Laird with maybe a career best season almost. They're going to be interesting, the Crows. Keen to see how they do go in the draft, and maybe they could go aggressive in the trade period. But yeah, end up finishing out in the bottom four. I feel like that's a huge success for the Crows.
For 16th, I've gone for North Melbourne. I believe they are.
Alright, North Melbourne, 16th. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were thinking North Melbourne would really, you know, bounce somewhat up the ladder this year, or just, you know, progressively improve from last year, but we just simply didn't see that. You know, I think a lot of people really rate North Melbourne's youth, and at the start of the year, I really did. You know, Taron Thomas, Davey Zuniak, I thought they'd really get going, and they just didn't. Throughout the season, just not really going, that slow improvement. They were just sort of, you know, meandering and you know, not really improving that much. But they did get, obviously, that upset win. They had a few decent form of games. Their clearance game was really good this year, so I think there's somewhat a bit of positive. But yeah, just another wooden spoon for North Melbourne. Just, yeah, I thought they could do a bit better. But yeah, they particularly 16th and ended up finishing 18th.
At 15th, I've gone for West Coast. Yes, a very...
Alright, West Coast at 15th. A lot of people really did have West Coast in the bottom four, and I just felt like they were going to really decline this year. I think it was pretty much straightforward. A lot of their, you know, age and experience were injured at the start of the year. They had a poor end of the season last year, and you could just sense they're going to be one of those teams that were really going to struggle next year. But yeah, you know, COVID outs, injury problems we saw at the start of the year, and I think, yeah, pretty much everybody had them for the bottom four, and they ended up finishing 17th, so a 2-point difference. Yeah, I mean, at least I got two teams in the bottom four correct, I guess. But yeah, just they just lack a lot of young talent. That's what we've really seen this year. A lot of COVID top-ups. Keen to see how they do go in the draft. Probably will pick up Wardlaw. We'll see.
The Pies at 14th. Wanting to...
All right, well, I think a lot of people, including myself, did have the Pies at the bottom 10 of the ladder. Who'd have thunk they'd finish 4th this year? I mean, yeah, that's a 10-point difference. Predicted them 14th, ended up finishing 4th. And look, I really did feel strong believers in Collingwood. I didn't really see them as a bottom 2 side this year. I felt they never really felt like finishing, deserved to really finish, and they never should have finished 17th last year. They had some good scalps last year. They just, you know, obviously the interim coach, they just heavily invested in a lot of youth in the second half of the year, so that's obviously why. But yeah, have a look at them, how they've gone this year under Craig McRae. Under Buckley, they just played really boring, you know, just chip mark and just slow build up. But with Craig McRae coming in, coach of the year, just the dare they play, the acceleration, the catapulting they can do, the handball chains from defensive 50 and score is something special. And top 4 this year, I mean, it was a terrific year for him. And yeah, I mean, considering a lot of probably people have them for the bottom 2, I mean, I'll take Collingwood out of the bottom 4. I mean, still very bad, but could have been worse. Yeah, Pies at 14, so 10-point difference.
At 13th now, I have gone for Gold Coast. It's a pretty bold.
Right, Gold Coast 13th. Yeah, start of the year, a lot of people had Gold Coast in the bottom 4, but it was a similar Collingwood, another team I really just had a strong belief that they would, you know, be a mid-table side this year. I couldn't really see them in the bottom 2. I still feel their list is very promising. You know, Ben King and a few players that they do have around in defence, and you know, another year into Rowell and Anderson, you feel like they'll go to the next level. And to be fair, you could say 𝐼𝐶 Miller was awesome last year. I just thought, you know, the first half of the season was good last year. It really wasn't bad, but they just kind of trailed off the second half of 2021, and I felt like they could just string a bit of consistency this year. And I guess you could say that. They ended up finishing 12th on the ladder, so it's a 1-point difference. Pretty close. I mean, really good contention for finals throughout this year, and I just love what they did. And they really got stitched up as well. They really maybe could have made finals. Maybe 𝐼𝐶 and 𝐼𝐶 awesome this year. Ben King was out for the season. Same with 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗏𝐶𝐿 and 𝘧𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴 too. So with those players back in, invest in the draft. Their youth is looking really strong. Could they make finals next year? But yeah, predict them as a mid-table side, and yeah, pretty much on the money almost.
Next up, Carlton, a team that I really want to see put...
Oh, Carlton 12th. Okay, well, yeah, it's simply this. Either you had Carlton around this position or you had them the top 6. I think it was really one way or the other. And I just felt, first year, coach of 𝐼𝐻, I couldn't really see him propel really high up into the top 8. I just felt like they'd have an improvement from last year, but geez, how about the start they did have? You know, they were 8-2 at the start of the year, or 10 games in. They just looked so strong at the start of the year. You know, 𝐼𝐶 was really in form. Same with Walsh, and their role players are starting to get a really good use out of their role players, which allowed them to have such a terrific start. Small forwards were humming. Everything was looking good. Strong and contested game. But then, you know, this year they sort of treated this season like a sprint, not a marathon. That's what we saw. Their role plays, they just weren't getting enough output out of them for them to continue to really string those wins together. Poor last 4 weeks of the year that unfortunately ended them finishing at 9th with a 3-point difference. But yeah, it's just, you know, a Brownlow medalist, 2 Coleman medalists in 2 years in a side. You've just really got to be making finals. I still think their gap between their top 3, top 4 players, which are very good, to the rest of their side, their role players, etc., is just such a massive gap, and that's what they've really got to get right. And maybe they could draft really well. Then they'd have a strong off-season. So, yeah, Carlton 12th, not too bad, I guess. 3-point difference.
Yeah. 11th, I've gone for GWS. In my
Ooh, okay, GWS at 11th. Interesting team, really, this one. Early predictions from December last year, I actually had them in the top 4. You just look at the Giants and you just think, wow, their list is so good. How are they not propelling and picking up those wins and, you know, making finals last year? I thought they could be really strong this year. And, you know, in the end, I ended up finishing 11th. I feel like they'd be a bit inconsistent. We saw that last year too. But how about that this year? They were just absolutely poor straight from the get-go. Ended up finishing 16th with a 5-point difference. And it's just, yeah, really... It's probably a team that lacks a lot of chemistry. Probably the best way to put it. You know, 𝘧𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴 Whitfield and Taranto and Coniglio and just so many star players. A few of their youth, of course, need to get probably a few more years in the system. They don't really have a consistent forward line we saw this year. Sam Taylor's an absolute star. Yeah, just really lacked a lot of chemistry this year. Leon Cameron obviously sacked 10 rounds in. So it's keen to see how they do go next year under Adam Kingsley. And, you know, they've drafted really well the last year and recruited quite well the last year. So, yeah, interesting to see how the Giants go next year. But, yeah, thought they'd just be a pretty average side this year, but probably worse than expected. Ended up finishing bottom 4.
At 10th, I've gone for St Kilda, a team that I...
Alright, Saints 10th, and that is my first on the money prediction. There we go. So they ended up actually finishing 10th, so 0 points difference. That is looking quite nice to score. Yeah, I mean, St Kilda, for me, they just don't have... It's a weird one. It's similar to Carlton. They have, 2 or 3 really good players, but the rest of their list is just such a huge gap. They're just a really mediocre list, in my opinion. Thankfully, Jack Sinclair turned out to be an All-Australian, had a huge breakout year. Max King really got going a bit. The first half of the season, all things were clicking. 𝐷𝐿 and 𝐿𝐴 were in sensational form. They're doing it without, a fully 100% Jack Steele as well. Crouch was in terrific form. But yeah, similar to Carlton, they just... sort of treat this year like a sprint, not a marathon, and slowly did decline a bit. But yeah, for me, they're just a lot of mediocre players in many positions. Couldn't really get going, inconsistencies like they always do. The Saints showed, and I just couldn't really see them pushing the finals this year. And how about that? Ended up finishing 10th on the money.
For 9th, I've gone with Essendon. It's very tough to choose.
All right, Essendon at 9th. Yeah, I think the second half of the year last year was just something special. Jake Stringer in terrific form, and they really just got that surge of momentum really going. And they ended up making finals, but a huge finals loss. That usually means you struggle the next year. And to be fair, we did see that they ended up finishing in a grand total position of 15th, so it is a 6-point difference. But yeah, I feel like the Dons were going to be somewhat competitive this year. They just got some sort of really good belief. But yeah, this year they just really fell apart. Problems at the end of the year with many of their staff and their board sacked, and it's just a season to forget, I think, for Dons fans. And just looking at a few of their players, Darcy Parish injured, Jake Stringer injured. They were awesome last year. A lot of inconsistent plays shown too. So not really Essendon's year. That is safe to say. Predicted them 9th, ended up finishing 15th, 6-point difference.
Moving into the top 8 now, and I've gone for Fremantle.
Okay, Freo at 8th. I really felt strong they were going to make the top 8 this year. They're building onto something special. I still feel Fremantle will have one of the most just underrated young core lists in the competition. Inconsistencies showed last year. Builded really somewhat nicely, very close to making finals last year. But yeah, I just felt strong they were going to do it this year. And how about that? Ended up finishing 5th. Very unlucky not to make the top 4, and that's a 3-point difference. But yeah, just looking at the young players, Andy Brayshaw's just going to keep on getting better. I really thought Fife was going to go strong this year, but how about that? He wasn't 100% at all, and they still produced a terrific season. But yeah, backline was strong. But yeah, as expected, just a lot of, with the inexperienced side, I guess you could say, there was always going to be inconsistencies this year, which pretty much keen for them to make the top 4. But yeah, really, I just really loved their season. Plenty of young talent really did shine. Hayden Young and 𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐼 and Brendan Cox still obviously quite young too. So yeah, it's exciting times if you're a Freo fan. Predicting them 8th, so yeah, pretty good prediction.
For 7th now, I'm going to go for quite a controversial call here, and I reckon it will be Port Adelaide.
Oh, wow. Funny how I said controversial call. I think a lot of people had them in the top 4 at the start of the year, because top 4 last year, but I just felt if you lose a huge final, which they did last year, they got spanked by the Bulldogs in the prelim final, you sort of struggle the next year. For me, Port Adelaide last year, they were just flat track bullies, probably the best way to describe it. They were awesome last year, but they just struggled to really beat teams above them in the ladder, but they managed to beat the bottom 10 sort of side. So I felt they'd sort of continue that this year, but struggle a bit more with a few of their players, and obviously their huge loss last year in the finals and put them 7th. I still felt somewhat confident they would string those wins together, but let's be honest, no one expected Port Adelaide to be 0-5 at the start of the year. Pretty much killed their chances to make finals, and they ended up finishing 11th on the ladder. So a 4-point difference, not bad at all. But quite simply, just they didn't get really enough output out of many of their players. An inconsistent season, that's probably the best way to put it.
At 6th place, I'm going to go for the Tigers, I believe.
Oh, there we go. Another nice prediction from me there at the start of the year. Tigers 6th, felt strong that they're going to make finals this year. And to be honest, they really could have made top 4. For me, they're the opposite of Collingwood. They're such a fine line with the Tigers, but they just got those close losses while Collingwood got the close wins. And have a look at it, one team and the other could have been in the top 4. But yeah, ended up finishing 7th, so a 1-point difference. But for me, I think I said in this video, their season last year was just one of those off seasons. I couldn't really see them slowly decline. I just felt last year they heavily relied on the youth. Damien Hardwick knew it was just going to be one of those seasons, I felt, so a lot of youth they did play. And also considering that they had a lot of injuries too. Dusty Martin out, Prestier out, I think it was Edwards out too. Just a lot of experienced players out for them in 2021. They invested really well in the off-season, and have a look how they went this year. Just pretty strong. You know, they're still very deadly on the turnover, which was like their premiership years, and yeah, really strong season they did put together. Very unfortunate to lose in the Elam final. Really could have gone further, but yeah, in terms of ladder predictions, pretty solid prediction, I'd say. Only one spot off.
For 5th place now, and I'm going to go for the runners-up of last year, the Western Bulldogs.
Okay, Doggies at 5th. Yeah, they ended up finishing 8th, so a 3-point difference. Where really they could have ended like 10th to 12th. It was that close over the last few weeks of the season. But yeah, Bulldogs, I could really feel that they would slowly decline a bit this year. Huge grand final loss, we see that. But just when you look at their list, you look at the contested game, it's just so strong. You know, Josh Bruce and also Aaron Norton was off solid last year. You'd felt like this year they'd just sort of continue that. With a bit of youth coming as well, you know, you think that Sam Darcy would debut and Jamal 𝘉𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐸 would have a stronger season this year, but just very inconsistent this year, the Bulldogs, and it's a strange season they had because they made finals, but it didn't feel like they made finals almost. But yeah, backline was just their main problem this year, you could say. Contested game, they were getting beaten in their own game as well, multiple matches this year, which was a bit of a concern. But yeah, I just felt like they'd not have the season they did in 2021. Had them 5th, finished at 8th. Yeah, not too bad, I guess, for a prediction.
Now moving on into the top 4, and for 4th place, I am going for the Sydney Swans.
Okay, Sydney Swans in 4th, ended up finishing 3rd on the ladder at the end of this year, so another 1-point difference. Pretty good there. Yeah, I just felt Swans were going to continue. That just incline from last year. Just such a revelation of the season they did have in 2021. Just played the youth, and they really did excel. Of course, they had inconsistencies that year. Of course, the very close Elam final loss. But sometimes when you win those close Elam finals or close finals, you have a bit of, you know, a bit of fire in the bellies for next year. And have a look at it. They were, again, inconsistent at the start of the year. A lot of slow starts and periods where they just get smacked in contested ball. But they really got things going in the second half of the year and ended up finishing 3rd. So a pretty solid tip. And yeah, just a great season the Swans did have. Unfortunately, they did have a huge grand final loss. Pretty much the best resemblance of their 2022 season. But yeah, in terms of predictions, pretty solid, I'd say.
3rd place, I've gone for the Geelong Cats.
There we go, Cutters in 3rd place, and to be honest, I really take this. Only 2-point difference, end up finishing the minor premiers and taking home the flag. But yeah, it was a really interesting one, the Cats at the start of the year. A lot of people had them missing finals at the bottom half of the 8. But I still feel like the Cats are just such a well-run footy club. You know, no matter how old they are, or you know, all those little variables that could affect their ladder performance, and their coach too, I still still felt that they'd be really competitive this year, and just they're such a strong home and away season side, very consistent. They put together, ended up from, I think it was like round 13 onwards, winning every single game, and ended up finishing, you know, winning 14, 15 in a row to finish off the year. But yeah, that was just strong. I still felt that Cameron and Hawkins were going to be awesome. Same with Selwood and Dangerfield. They rested their midfield so exceptionally well. Just were awesome this year, the Cats. And I just felt that they would, yeah, keep on really keeping up there in the top 4. And yeah, finishing in 3rd. I did have them for the prediction. 2-point difference. Pretty good, I'd say.
Gone for the Premiers in 2nd place.
All right, Demons in 2nd place. Yeah, it's a pretty safe prediction. Safe to say, Demons in the top 4. You just felt you're winning a premiership like that, it can't really seem drop off a bit. And yeah, start the year 10-0, but they just got that maybe reality check sort of, because I still felt how they won the flag last year was just their midfield was just unstoppable, and their forwards were in terrific form. Ben Brown and Fritsch around that time last year were awesome, but they're just all clicking. Won the flag tremendously well, but yeah. When they picked up those losses in the second half of the year, their forward half structure really fell on them. I still felt when Tom McDonald was out for the year, I sort of had that sensation, I don't think they can win the flag, because structure is so important in the forward line. And we saw that many of their losses were losses that they really struggled to put on scoreboard pressure. You know, when it was getting tight, they just struggled to put on points when it mattered, and they get defeated. We saw that many times throughout this year for the Demons. So yeah, a few concerns in that particular area, but of course still a strong season for the Demons. Out in straight sets, not entirely the season they planned, but in terms of ladder predictions, ended up finishing 2nd in the actual ladder, so on the money.
And for the minor premiers of 2022, I believe it will be the Brisbane Lions.
There you go, Brizzy Lions in first, and yikes, ended up finishing sixth. 5-point difference, and I felt like it was sort of a bold prediction in the way the Lions. I feel like a lot of people expected the Lions to really just have that season, have that unstoppable year. You could just see it coming almost. Very narrowly going out in straight sets last year. You felt like there'd be a bit of vengeance. And to be fair, first half of the year, they're looking solid. We all thought they were the number 2 seed to the Demons. They were going to be comfortable top 2 finishes. But yeah, things just really dropped off. A number of their players just really struggled. The defence really struggled. The midfield was kind of getting comprehensively beaten from time to time. But I still feel the Lions are in a really strong position. Ended up finishing 6th, where it really could have been better. Still made it to the Final 4, technically, going all the way to a prelim final. So, yeah, the season might have been close. I did predict them to finish, to be in the hunt for the flag. But in terms of ladder predictions, they're not the greatest. Ended up finishing 6th. Okay, so there is my predicted ladder, fellas. And as you can see on the table, there is also the actual, where they actually finished and the difference. And if you add up all the points combined, it is a grand total of 56 points. It's something that I really do want to do year after year, so we can kind of compare scores, I guess you could say. But yeah, I don't know, 56 is a really good score. I mean, there's a few ones that were pretty bad, a few ones that were pretty good. I feel like I did all right, considering the score. So, of course, as said before, the lower the better. Not too bad. Let's continue on and react to the other awards that I did predict.
Moving straight away into who I think will win the flag this year. And I believe it will be another minor premiers will win the flag, and it will be the Brisbane Lions.
There we go, Brisbane Lions. I did tip them for the flag. I mean, I got that prediction right that I said I reckon a minor premier is going to win the flag, but just not the right team. But yeah, I said before, I just felt that the Lions were really going to have that season when they just absolutely blitz it. But didn't see it, but sort of close. Made the Final 4 in the end, so yeah, no shame, I reckon.
Aside, I believe that the Brownlow medalist for this year will be 𝐼𝐿𝐴 for.
Right, Clary for the Brownlow. I mean, yeah, Brownlow tips are just, could be anyone really. Just pick an elite mid and you're pretty much almost there. And I just felt 𝐼𝐿𝐴 was going to have a sensational year. And to be fair, probably had a career best year, ending up taking home the Coaches Association Player of the Year award, which was pretty solid. But yeah, if it wasn't for Petrarch, I think he would be having Charlie around his neck at the end of this season. But yeah, I think he was a few, like 3 or 4 votes off. But yeah, ended up being Cripps. Pretty close, I'd say. Not a bad prediction at all.
I believe the Rising Star winner will be Nick Daicos.
Right, there we go. There is a prediction correct. Nick Daicos for the Rising Star. I think it was, a pretty safe option. I just felt, Daicos was just sensational in his junior years. If the AFL allowed it, if he played in the 90s, I think he'd be playing for Collingwood if he was 17. Just a superstar he is, and he's just showed that this year across half-back. Player, he doesn't really play half-back in the juniors. He played half-forward in the midfield, but just absolutely blitzed it. Had a few best-on-ground performances. Ended up picking up 11 or 12. I think it was 11 Brownlow votes. Sensational this year. I mean, he was a shoo-in from Rising Star probably 10 weeks in. So, yeah, correct prediction there.
Now, moving on into the Coleman medal winner, and I believe for 2022, it will be Jeremy Cameron, who will kick.
Right, I thought Jezza was going to kick the most goals this season, and I think he was top 5. He almost got there, but yeah, Charlie Curnow did take it home. Yeah, similar to the Brownlow, you just pick a forward that you feel like is going to have a big year, and I feel like Jezza was, and to be fair, he's probably a top 5 most valuable player in the year. So in terms of that, a player that I really thought was going to have a strong season in Jezza Cameron, he did do that. But yeah, combined with Hawkins, it's really tricky for him to take home the Coleman. I thought he was going to absolutely get it, but fell short. So again, similar to really Oliver for the Brownlow, no shame in really getting that wrong. So there we go, everybody. That was me reacting to the season predictions. Just a quick overview. With the ladder prediction, I've got 56 points. Got the flag prediction wrong with Brisbane, but they ended up finishing in the Final 4. So you could, sort of give me a half tick, I guess you could say, because I was quite close. 𝐼𝐿𝐴 tipped him for Brownlow, got it wrong, and Jezza wrong for the Coleman, but did get at least one thing right for the Rising Star with Nick Daicos. So everyone, that is the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you wanted to enjoy today's video. Yeah, it's pretty fun reacting to the season predictions. Of course, many other content creators do it, and I thought I want to hop on board this year and do it. And yeah, hopefully you lot did enjoy. And yeah, that's it from me, fellas. Thank you very much for watching. I just want to quickly say thanks for all the awesome support this year with YouTube and the AFL season. Of course, I will be pumping out content throughout the off season, so stay tuned on the channel. And yeah, that's it from me, fellas. I'll talk to you later. See you later.